What up, y'all? Nick here. What's going on? It's Mr. Millionaire Insight. What's going on with you? Hope you're having a good Friday. You guys, I'm excited for this weekend. Not just because it's Super Bowl weekend, it's another opportunity to thank God for a wonderful week, and it's another opportunity to, get into the things that you like and hopefully learn something today. So, in this video, I would like to talk about why we aren't truly free. All right, let's jump into it. So, guys, when we talk about freedom, what do you generally think about? You think about being able to do what you want, how you want to, when you want to, with whom you want to. So, the important thing here is to understand what freedom means to you. Now, that's my disclaimer. This is not me telling anyone how to live. This is just me explaining to you, like the title says, why we aren't truly free. And I wanted to dive into a couple things, and basically I want to start with the reason why we aren't truly free. And the reason why is because of our mindset, because of our thinking. And I know, you can get on here and say, okay, yeah, it's another motivational speaker talking about mindset and things like that, and motivational concepts, but really sit there and think about that. We're still in the first quarter of 2022, still a fresh new year, and some of us are way into our resolve to take new steps to change our life, and others are still trying to figure out what that is. But as good as introspection is, as good as, having an idea written down preferably of what you would like to do, what you would like to accomplish, the more important thing is to understand why you are where you are, where you have been, where you've been, and most importantly, where you intend to go and why. Now, back to the concept of freedom, right? When you think about freedom financially, I think of freedom of time and freedom of money. And although it may be one of those things where it can differentiate from person to person, my financial independence number is going to be different to your financial independence number, my neighbors, my friends, things like that, my family members. It's going to be very different based on the person you're talking to. But generally, people think of, okay, freedom of money is all my bills are taken care of, all of my responsibilities financially are taken care of. I have money to do the things that I want to do. And obviously, as a financial professional, I would be remiss to say that you have to add in there, you have to have something put aside towards not only your short-term future, like for an emergency fund, or a long-term, but also a long-term strategy to help plan for retirement. Now, at this point in the video, this is my disclaimer. I am not an investment licensed individual. This is not investment advice. This is just for entertainment purposes only. Please consult your financial professional in order to give you proper guidance for your specific situation. So, with that said, guys, freedom of money, like I said, varies from person to person. And when you think about, it's not just about how much money you have or how much money you make, but it's how much money you keep. And the reason why I keep focusing on why I say we're not truly free is because we are taught to be bound. Yes, we are taught to be bound. Financially, we're not really taught how to get ahead. We are taught how to survive. We are taught how to get by, especially in the minority community, in the black community, in brown community, Asian community, whatever minority you are in this country watching this, listening to this, you have been taught by your parents or grandparents or auntie or whoever took care of you. You have heard people say, well, when you ask them, how you doing? Man, I'm just getting by. That's how we've been taught all of our lives. We've been taught to survive. We've been taught to get by. And with this being Black History Month, I figure I kind of tie in some of the known concepts and some of the ones you may not remember and may not even come across yet. So during slavery times, our ancestors, I should say, Black ancestry, were basically doing what they had to live, right? They did what they had to do with the resources they had. You know, when you think about food, you know, they weren't given much, so they had to do a lot, make a lot stretch with the little that they have now. You know, it was a very different time, obviously. It was a very different kind of mindset. It was definitely about living day to day, living with the purpose of surviving day to day. But it's been a very long time, and the travesty and the tragedy of slavery aside, the mindset has still persisted. Now we can delve into, you know, implicit biases and, you know, gerrymandering and some of the visited topics that a lot of people on and off social media talk about. But for the purposes of this video, and I'm not stepping over any of that, all of that stuff applies. It definitely does. But what are we being taught from a young age? We're being taught to conform. And conform to what? That is the operative question. What are we being taught to conform to? We're being taught to conform to a mindset of you just need to put your head down and do what you have to and do what you must to survive. We're not even taught to see outside our circumstance. We're not even taught to look beyond our neighborhoods. We have our hangouts. We have our places that we go. We have our places that we go to unwind. We have our places that we go to work. We have our places that we hang out with family. But generally speaking, if you really think about it, we don't have too many places that we are told, okay, we can be better. We can strive for so much more. We deserve so much more. It starts even in school. When you're taught how to conform. You're taught, you take the test the same way. You're taught to study the same way. The very concept of study hall, where a bunch of kids get into a room and they be quiet and they study basically the same way. And you know, kids don't learn the same way, but we're taught the same way in study hall. If you're not sitting a certain way, if you're not in a certain posture, a certain way, you could possibly get in trouble. If you don't conform to that, you could possibly make waves. So even when we're studying for something, we're taking a test for something, we're taught to conform. We're taught to join the status quo. Even in like, you could think about business school. Like I remember when they brought business classes, and I was so happy when they brought business classes to my school, when they brought business classes to my high school when I came into this country. And it's so funny, as an immigrant, I used to think, okay, so you come to America, the land of opportunity, the land that flows with milk and honey. That is the way that immigrants see this country, is that this is the place. If you want to make it somewhere, you got to come here to this country for the opportunity to make it. And so people believe that when they come here, They're getting opportunities. I'm not saying that opportunity does not live here. Absolutely, opportunity lives here. However, what we are taught, it's like this. I'm not saying we're not given keys to a car, and in more situations than not, we are taught to take that car and do whatever we want to with it, right? But then we're not really told what is out there to do. There's a difference between telling somebody what to do and telling somebody what their options are. And see, the conversation has to be had about what certain groups of people are teaching their kids, what the opportunities that we are telling our kids that are out there. See, you will have some groups of people, and I know I can speak from my group, as a black immigrant that's not from this country, that didn't have the same culture, didn't have the same upbringing as most Americans do. You know, the whole point is that we were taught differently. We were taught some of the fundamental things that you're taught as a minority, especially from the Caribbean. I'm not saying anybody else doesn't work hard, but that's the first thing. Work hard, right? That's the first thing. Keep your head down. Stay out of trouble, because as a young black man in America, one of the first lessons you are taught, my people used to say, hey, listen, if you get in trouble in this country, we don't just get arrested and go to jail, right? We don't just go to jail. They could possibly send you home. So try your best and behave yourself and learn your lessons, learn your schoolwork, and graduate and do something with your life. But unfortunately, that's where it stops for most people. For most people, that's where it stops. We talk about saving money. Comment below if you've heard this. Put something away for a rainy day. Comment down below if you heard that, right? We are told, put something away for a rainy day. Yeah, but how? Take it to the bank, right? I have a lot of feelings about putting money in the bank and stuff like that. I still use banks, but that's for another video. I can break down, why I don't necessarily trust banks. But the whole thing is, we're told, okay, put your money in the bank. Put your money in a savings account. Put your money in a CD. Put your money in this. Put your money in that. And it's like maybe 2 or 3 different things. And I know when I was younger, I was excited to put my couple dollars, like a $50 bill, a $100 bill, when I save it up and put it in a CD. But if you think about it, even 20 years ago, right, what were you getting? Maybe 2%, maybe 5%, maybe at most banks. Now you're lucky to get 1% at most banks, right? Again, this is not financial advice, but I'm just saying, right? You don't get much. But that's the length and breadth that we talked about. And it's generally because we did not know, right? Or if we did know, we didn't think we knew enough to teach somebody, hey, this is what you do. This is where you go. This is how you learn about this. This is how you learn about retirement accounts. This is what you learn about Roth IRAs. This is what you learn about establishing an emergency fund. This is how you learn about 529s. This is how you learn about planning for your college. This is how you learn step by step. We weren't given all these different things to say, okay, these are the options, and it's laid out before us, the options that we have in order to have your money work for you, so in order to attain financial freedom. And that's the very next point. We are taught to work for money. You work, you get paid. You work 2 weeks, even when you start a job, you're working your 2 weeks. On that 3rd week, you jump into the pay cycle and you get paid. right? That's what we are taught. As an immigrant black person, as an immigrant black family, that is the cornerstone. After Jesus Christ, after serving the Lord in spirit and in truth, you work, right? Especially as a young black man in America, period, you are taught to work, right? You go to work, you do what you have to, you use the resources you have to, you use the body that God gave you. How many people have heard this? You use the body that God gave you, the energy that He gave you to go out there and work. But what if you're disabled and you can't go out there and do construction or do masonry or do carpentry or do some kind of trade, right? When you're physically out there, what if you just don't have the ability, maybe not be disabled, but you just don't have the ability to go out there and do physical labor. You're not able to go out there. May have been an accident or something, God forbid, but you're not able to. The long and short of it is you're not able to, right? Even they say, okay, I heard this all my life. Okay, so you're not as strong, you're not as fast, you're not as capable of doing certain things because you're disabled. That's okay. You can use your mind. But again, telling somebody about a tool and telling them how to use it, or at the very least, how to learn how to use it effectively, is what makes the difference, right? Being taught about a freedom mindset, being taught that you deserve better, and that's how it starts. The very root of the conversation is how it starts. It starts up here. It starts about, what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe that is possible for you? What do you believe that is possible for your family? Because if you believe it's possible, if you believe it, and as corny as it sounds, if you believe it, you can achieve it, right? That's what this is about. It's starting with your mind. It's not just you are smart and you are capable and you are able to do certain things. It's about what you believe in here and what you believe in here. Because if it don't start there, it's not going to happen. Because if you don't think you can, or you think you do, you are absolutely right. So not because you have tools to use or you have talents that you have at your disposal to be able to use, means that you know how to effectively use it. And the next thing is that we are taught that because nobody in our family's ever done it, we can't go out there and do it. I have a big problem with this because it just breeds an atmosphere of, oh, we'll only go up to here. We're only going to do only so much because that's what so-and-so has done, right? If nobody in your family ever started a business, then your level is going to be right under there, right? Where you may have a shop, you may have a side hustle, you may make food, or you sell food, or you sell clothes, or whatever it is. You can sew a little bit, you put a little bit aside, and you start a little sewing business, a little cooking. You know, I know in the Caribbean, we sell food. A lot of people sell food. You make food in your house on weekends. You hold a little barbecue, you hold a little curry cue, and you make a little end here, make a little end there. But we never, or rarely, I should say, rarely move beyond that. We rarely think that we can take things at a higher level. And that's the sad thing, is that that's what keeps us bound. Because we're taught in school that we are to conform and that we are trained. We're basically trained and sharpened all the way up to a doctorate to go join something. Even if you go become a doctor, we're joined to, okay, you go to all the school, 8 years of your life, sometimes 10 years of your life, almost half your life, and all you do is you go sign up to work at a hospital. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to say, okay, you go work at a hospital. For doctors who work at a hospital, hats off to you, because the sacrifice that you are making, especially in these times with everything that's going on, is absolutely commendable. However, I'm just illustrating a point that we are not taught, even as a doctor, that you could have dreams of owning your own practice. See, there's a little known fact, and even I didn't know this till a few years ago, that aside from certain doctors, right, coming to the hospital, they work at the hospital, they're on call at the hospital, right? I assume that they're on call at the hospital, they're at home, whatever, being with their families and things like that. But when they call, they just jump up and come to the hospital. But no, there are certain doctors that actually have practices. When I say practice, I mean that they have their own office, they have their own business, so that when they're not at the hospital, they're still seeing patients. Believe it or not, I didn't know. Now you know, right? So there's people that are out there taking advantage of opportunities to own their own practice, to go out there and build something for themselves, build a willable business for themselves. See, that's the power, one of the powers of owning your own business, that when you go work for somebody else, when it's time for you to stop working and your kids are grown, there's nothing to leave. There's no income stream to leave. All you can do when you just work for someone else is just say, hey, I've worked for this company for 15, 20, 25, 30 years. I could get you a good recommendation. And that is a very large multi-syllable word for I can only do so much. But being a business owner, you are able to leave a book of business with clients that have already been catered to and maintained, and you grow your client list. You can leave that and will that as in paper to your kids, right? It's not just about leaving them a house, leaving them a car, leaving them some money, leaving them opportunity to be able to do something. And this is what it is, because lately I've been talking about in a lot of my videos that wealthy people, successful people don't chase money, they chase time. But even more important than that, they chase opportunity. Opportunity is what makes the difference between being bound and being free. It is why you hate your job. It is why you are tired when you are self-employed, because you are working yourself ragged. Even if you have your own business and you are running your own business and you a chief cook and bottle washer, like my people say, when you do absolutely everything all the time, your body doesn't get a chance to snap back because you are the one doing everything. But the thing, when you chase opportunity, opportunity will find you, because the thing is, you can't truly be free, at least financially and in business and in that world, until you have a bankable skill that you can teach someone to replicate yourself. See, every time you're able to teach someone what you do, teach someone what you know, teach someone how you got to where you are, and they work with you as a partner, you can actually duplicate yourself. Think about this, right? I was watching the Food That Built America on the History Channel. If you haven't seen that, or just the Built America series, I recommend everybody go watch that, because it's so powerful. It started with the men who built America, but one of the other series was the Food That Built America. Here is the thing about a mindset, and I'll leave you with this. Did you know, it is a somewhat known fact by a lot of people, some may not know, that McDonald's, one of the biggest corporations on the face of this planet, is not owned or is not responsible Or let's say it like this. One of the biggest brands, McDonald's, on this earth, right? Revolutionized the way restaurants are run, the way restaurant businesses are run, right? One of the biggest corporations on this earth is owned, or was owned, I should say, by a man named Ray Kroc. And when I first came here, I did not know that, because I remember walking into a McDonald's one day and I looked on the wall and I seen the plaque on the wall with Ray Kroc on it. And I said, usually when people start a business, the owner is usually, somebody having to do with the name. So where is Mr. McDonald? And in the Food That Built America series, it talks about the McDonald's brothers, right? Those two started McDonald's in San Bernardino, California, I believe it was. And they had a vision of becoming one of the biggest brands, the biggest businesses, but in California. That's the key here, in California. So when they started their business, they grew to the modern equivalent of probably 10 or 20 million, give or take. Don't quote me on those numbers. You can look it up on Google. But they grew their business to a certain point where they weren't really hurting for money. They weren't really hurting for cash at the time. And this is way back. So when they built their business, they were approached by a man named Ray Kroc, one of their biggest clients as far as the milkshake mixers. And Ray Kroc walked into that business and the light bulb went off. He had this look like, this is amazing. This is genius. This deserves to be on every corner, not just in California, not just in America, but around the world. And he wanted to franchise. But here's the difference between the McDonald's brothers mindset and Ray Kroc's mindset. He wanted to have McDonald's touch every person on this planet. Now, regardless if you eat fast food or not, it has nothing to do with it. It's the mindset behind the vision that Ray Kroc had to have McDonald's become one of the biggest brands on earth. And he dreamed of having a McDonald's on every corner. But when he went to the McDonald's brothers, he sat down with them and he said, listen, this is the vision that I think you guys should have, because this deserves to be in everyone's hands, right? And why don't we franchise? You should consider franchising. And they looked at him like his head fell off and rolled down the street. Why would we franchise? Why would we allow another person to use our business name? Why would we allow another person to use our business concept? And so Ray Kroc was furious, because it was a great idea, and you just see a great opportunity, there's that word again, being wasted, right? You see opportunity being wasted. So he was upset. So even at that time, he said, you know what? This is what it is. I will give you, I believe it was $2 million. $2 million for the exclusive rights to McDonald's and all its intellectual property. That's another concept you gotta look up. Intellectual property, right? So all of McDonald's, basically everything that McDonald's is, for $2 million. I forget what the modern equivalent of that is today, but that's another piece of homework. So he bought McDonald's for $2 million. And at the time, he wanted to franchise McDonald's for $5,000 per franchise. Think about that. $5,000, and you get to own a franchise in McDonald's, own a piece of the company. And think about what that is today. Over $1 million in liquid assets. That means spendable cash that you have to have before you can even own a McDonald's franchise today. And he wanted to get it done for $5,000, and they flat out said no to franchising. But when he offered to buy the franchise, they jumped at the chance. But you know what? In the negotiation, and this is where it's key here, in the negotiation, they said, you know what we want? You could have the McDonald's name, you could have all the rest to McDonald's. All we want is to just have that store, the first store that we build. We just want that store, and we give you everything else to do with what you want for $2 million. Bruh. Guess what happened, right? If you know the story, get some. If you don't know the story, get some handkerchiefs, because it's a sad story. Listen to me. Ray Kroc said, listen, there will not be a person that ever forgets about McDonald's. Everybody's going to know the name McDonald's. And what he did in I think it was like 8 years or 5 years after that, he built a McDonald's across the street from them. Across the street from the McDonald's first store, the McDonald's brothers' first store, and ran them into the ground. Bruh. He did so much business with his version of what their dream was and ran them out of business. They kept it up for a couple years, but then they had to close their doors, and the rest is proverbial history. Think about this. McDonald's turned out to be one of the biggest toy producers a couple years back. McDonald's does not make toys, people. McDonald's simply has locations everywhere. And today, they're a multi-billion dollar, that's billion with a B, billion-dollar company. And all because the McDonald's brothers didn't have a free mindset of the possibility for opportunity. They missed a multi-billion dollar opportunity. Their closed-mindedness cost them billions of dollars. And me and my wife talk about this all the time. How sad is it to carry that last name, knowing that your great-grandfather built that business from idea up, and you don't get nothing. Zero, right? You don't get nothing. And this McDonald's brand has shook up the world. You could, like I said, eat fast food, don't eat fast food. You have to agree that McDonald's Corporation, Hamburger University, is a universal concept, right? Let that sink in. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that having a free mindset can only be obtained if you only understand first that you are still bound. You are still bound by what you've been taught in your family, what you teach yourself, who you surround yourself with. If you do not change, you will not improve. Success and change goes hand in hand. Success and becoming uncomfortable enough to do something different goes hand in hand. If you don't, you won't. Simply put, right? Having a free mindset, being truly free. There's a quote from Harriet Tubman. I would have freed so many more slaves if only they knew they were bound. Right? Let that sink in for a moment. Some people don't even realize that they are trapped. They don't realize they are not free. They don't realize because why? The cage looks nice. The cage feels nice because you could do something, and at the end of the year you get 2, 3, 5 grand back, 10 grand back because you got married and had a couple of kids. But are you really free? Can you really pick up and say, I'm going to take a month off and go to Florida and visit my family, or go to Hawaii, or go to Connecticut, or go to wherever your heart's desire. Go somewhere for a month. and still have money to pay your bills, handle your responsibilities, and come back and say, yes, I had a great time. We should do that again in 6 months. Think about that. Freedom is about the ability to choose. Yes, there are rules. You cannot have freedom without rules and regulation. Yes, that is true. But true freedom comes from the ability to choose how you want to spend your time, who you want to spend your time with, and how much money you make in order to do the things that you want to do. So I challenge everybody watching this, whether you're watching this on social media or you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or Anchor, make sure that you remember the keys to freedom is the ability to choose the opportunities that you have to take advantage of. And you can't take advantage of something if you don't even know about it. Guys, thank you so much for giving me the time today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not already followed me on social media, I am available on social media by the handle Mr. Millionaire Insight on most social media platforms. I just started TikTok recently, so please go show your boy some love there. Make sure you go check out the YouTube channel at Millionaire Insight, the number 4 and the word life, and check out my low content books on Amazon. I have an author page. I'll put the link in the description below. Make sure you get that. Go check it out. Really inexpensive. It helps you organize your goals, organize your plans, and helps you build a roadmap that you can actually go back to and say, this is where I've been, this is where I am, and this is where I'm going. So make sure you check out those low content books. Support the clothing line Millionaire Insight Apparel. The link will also be in the description, and tons of other things, tons of other content. You can support my content on Patreon at Millionaire Insight, also on patreon.com. So I thank you guys for all of you who supported me and my content for the last couple of years. It has been an absolute blast. So I thank you guys. Share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, live life, love God. See you when I see you. Peace.